And there's no reason to have a cost associated with energy. It's unnecessary. And with the physics that's now known, the biophotonic work, the things that we now know in electromagnetics are so advanced, and even the information that's kept from us that's very advanced by DARPA and others, we really have everything already. Energy should be a non-cost item. And I don't just believe in setting up more of the same, of something that continues to grow and escalate in its cost. It's unnecessary. I'm very much interested in establishing a parallel economy that doesn't function from the same paradigm of thinking that we're entrenched in. Because what you and I are really talking about is separating the wheat from the chaff, apples from oranges, making distinctions, making things clear so that people can see the real light of the situation.
Right.
And not be smothered by and ingesting a falsity about what's happening. But the reality is that energy doesn't have to have a cost. That's the first part of a new paradigm. Why does it have to have a cost? And if it does, it should be so inexpensive if it's advanced. It doesn't have to be expensive. And there you have, when you have an economy of scale and you have a paradigm that uses the Tesla technology. I mean, there's a reason why Raytheon filed for the patents of Tesla when he died. Took his weather engineering, took a lot of his patents, and the military industrial complex owns it. There's a reason. There's a reason for that. And so we all talk about renewables, but can you imagine that the sun is left out of the equation of weather and climate? And you and Anthony Watts wrote up about these surface stations. They don't even tell the public the true state of these stations, and that all this has to be dug up and put together and found out and explained to the public. And yet many people are going to be completely hypnotized by what a presidential leader will say or what a regulatory agency will say. And here we are at a time where what we're talking about is a potential for mass enslavement. And we live at a time where we can do better. We can do a lot better.
A lot better. I agree with you.
What is your wish for the next few years? What is it that you would like to see happen?
I would like, as one of the professors at the University of East Anglia said, that ClimateGate turns out to be a turning point, a game changer. And researchers become more upfront, open, and explicit. And we start looking at the reality in terms of the real drivers for climate. That we also stop this nonsense of thinking we have all the answers on energy, and the answers are batteries that go into cars, as if the electricity that feeds the batteries isn't produced by a fossil fuel plant, a nonsense there. That we incent corporations like Raytheon to move the ball forward in developing the true alternative energy sources, improving the solar. Some improvements have been made in recent years that make it much more efficient. But not ignore what we know about using the wealth of resources this country has in terms of coal, natural gas, tar sands, and oil offshore, and convert that to clean coal.
Does clean coal really exist? Because I heard it doesn't really exist, and
well,
it's just a package name. What is it?
There's a plant, I believe, in Montana. The technology exists to gasify or liquefy it and produce clean fuel, natural gas, basically, from coal. They use this in Germany as well, and we can do that. It has been not cost-effective, but if energy costs rise, it will become much more cost-effective. And also, it has not been frowned on. The powers that be seem to be enamored by ethanol from corn and also sun and wind.
Using food, I think ethanol is one of the biggest wastes of money. It's going to ruin farms. It's going to ruin rural areas.
Right. I was in Brazil where they use sugarcane and much more efficiently in ethanol, and I drove in a car that was powered by natural gas, much higher miles per gallon, averages the equivalent of 50 miles per gallon in the cab that I drove. They're further along in the proper use of alternative energy than we are in this country, surprisingly.
So people should go to your site, icecap.us, and what is that site about?
Well, we look at all sides of the climate issue and the politics that's involved, but also new papers that come out, talk about the sun, the ocean, talk about when NOAA comes out with a statement about the month being the warmest ever. We did a story today. It's actually in the USA Today today mentioned that and quoted me in that story. But we look at the politics of it. We look at media and how the media is handling the issue, and not very well usually. We have a wealth of information in the library of close to 4,500 stories that we've assembled over the last 3 years, and all of that is searchable. We try to keep people up to date as to the state of the climate. And periodically we'll talk about what we expect short and long term as we go forward in the future, both on a weather basis but also on a climate basis. And we will be updating that story, Anthony and I, as new information is put together. We are looking at showing people how they've modified the temperatures from a couple of decades ago to the current in graphical form so they can see very clearly how the data has been manipulated. That'll soon be a paper that will be there and hopefully published elsewhere.
Thank you so much for being a guest on It's Rainmaking Time. It's an honor and a pleasure to know you and to be able to talk with you and to be educated by you and others. And thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, you can reach Joe Dalio at icecap.us. Thank you again, Joe, for being on the show. And is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, thank you very much, Kim, for what you're doing.